I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Republican candidate for Congress Pete Stauber joins us, fresh off last week's campaign rally with President Trump. It's the first of our interviews with the candidates in the 8th Congressional District.
Thanks to a generous donation, Udac will soon be moving into a new home. We'll have more on the gift and the nonprofit's mission.
And we'll hear from a Northland veteran in our Voices of Vietnam profile.
These stories and the business news coming up on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Denny, more severe storms in the region this week. It's been a pretty soggy start to the summer.
We've had plenty of rain lately, and it sounds like this weekend could be a little bit wet.
It's a little bit unsettled.
Yeah, it is for now.
All right, well, we have a lot to talk about tonight, so let's get started.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Well, it has been a busy few weeks for our first guest, who is St. Louis County Commissioner and also running for Congress. Last week, President Donald Trump came to Duluth to help boost his campaign in the 8th District. And so joining us now to talk about the campaign is Pete Stauber, the Republican-endorsed candidate in the 8th Congressional District race. Pete, thanks for being here tonight. What does it mean to you personally to have had the President of the United States here? I mean, there are 345 seats in Congress?
435.
435 seats in Congress. And all of a sudden, the President is here to endorse you.
Yeah, Dennis, before I answer that, you talked about the weather. Babbitt and Ely and St. Louis County got hammered this morning with the high winds, and so I want those viewers to understand that the county stands ready to help them in the townships, because we in Duluth experienced it 2 years ago. So for the viewers, I want them to know that St. Louis County stands ready to help them and get them back up on their feet. But to your question, Dennis, it was surreal for us. You know, we were very pleased that the President came to not only Minnesota, but the 8th Congressional District, where we can show off our treasures. And you know, he called me in March while I was on the campaign trail and asked, you know, he said, Pete, we're hearing some good things about your campaign and you're working hard, and what can we do to help you? And I said, Mr. President, why don't you come up to our district and see the people and the treasures we have, and he kept his promise.
Now, of course, the district goes beyond the county line, where folks up here are probably fairly familiar with you and your story, but for those who maybe aren't, give a little bit of background on yourself and why you decided that now was the right time to run for Congress.
Yeah, so Julie, myself and my 5 brothers grew up in Duluth's Piedmont Heights neighborhood, graduated from Duluth-Denfeld, and I played 2 years of junior hockey. I played Division I hockey at Lake Superior State University in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And I was fortunate enough to play a few years of professional hockey. And once I retired from that, I came back to Minnesota. My first police job was actually in the city of Cottage Grove. I was a police officer paramedic down there. And then I moved up to Duluth, and I spent the last 22 years serving the citizens of Duluth as a police officer. And I retired last August as an area commander. A very nice career. It was really a privilege to serve and be a professional police officer in the city of Duluth.
There are members of labor unions and non-union laborers who are supporting Donald Trump. Did you ever think that would happen here in the 8th Congressional District across the northeastern Minnesota, where they would support a Republican candidate for president?
I did, Danny. In fact, you're seeing the last couple of elections where you know, President Trump won our district in 16 by just under 16%. You know, supporting our way of life, supporting our mining, supporting our forest products and loggers and truckers, and supporting our port is very important for my candidacy. And people understand that, and it resonates with them. They understand that I will fight for their way of life. So it doesn't surprise me. As you know, there are several Iron Range mayors that have supported me. Historically a Democratic stronghold, but I've had meet and greets up on the Iron Range and actually throughout the district. But on the Iron Range, there's really a lot of people that are coming over towards our campaign and really trust that I will serve the citizens in the 8th.
As people talk to you about potentially going to Washington, what are the issues that they want you to deal with when you're there? What are the things that are important in your conversations with people in our area?
You know, Julie, I've been on the campaign trail for a year now, and when I meet people and listen to their concerns, they trust me because I resonate with them. You know, when I talk to small business owners, I understand the frustrations and the toughness they're having in some of these times because I am a small business owner and have been for 28 years. You know, we talk about the opioid crisis. In my police profession, I saw it. I've seen Narcan given to people that are overdosing and we save their lives. And unfortunately, I've also seen the death and destruction of overdose. I've had to give death notifications. So when we talk about that, people understand that I've lived it and breathed it. You know, we talk about the military, right? The support for the military. My wife served in Iraq. She's an Iraq war veteran, and she's the first female command chief at the 148th Fighter Wing. So when I talk about service and support for our men and women in the military, they understand I've been there.
Another issue that pops up frequently is gun control. Do we need more gun control?
Yeah, so some of your listeners may not know this, but Pete Stauber was a victim of 2 violent gun crimes. One while off duty. I was shot in the head in 1995. And then while on duty, I had an individual pull the gun on me, pull the trigger, and by the grace of God, it didn't go off. I still am a Second Amendment supporter. The law-abiding citizen, we're not, in law enforcement, we're not concerned about the law-abiding citizen. And nobody wants criminals or drug dealers or people who are going through a mental health crisis to have a firearm. There's nobody I know of, and I will not support that. But we need to support the law-abiding citizens.
Of course, immigration is a hot-button issue right now with families that were being separated at the border. You come from a law enforcement background. If you went to Congress, what do you think Washington should do to balance the need for border security with the treatment of those who are really legitimately seeking sanctuary here in our country?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one of the reasons I want to go to Congress, to solve this problem. You know, you look at, I think it's a terrible consequence that the children are being taken away due to the parents' decision. You know, we are a nation of law and order, and having, for me, being professional law enforcement officer for 23 years, we have laws, we need to enforce laws. I will support legal immigration where that immigrant wants to come to this great country, live the American dream, and contribute.
I drove up and down the main street of Virginia, Chestnut Street, a couple of weeks ago, and I counted 30 empty storefronts, or close to that number. It appeared to be 30. What's happening to the Iron Range? If it's happening in Virginia, I would suspect that's happening in other cities across the range.
Well, Dennis, one of our greatest imports or exports out of the 8th District is our young people. I'm going to Washington to make sure that they can stay in the 8th District, they can live, work, raise a family, and I support our way of life. You talk about the small businesses in Virginia, the storefronts. You know, we need a vibrant community. We need to allow small businesses to flourish and really reduce the regulations and the overburden regulations on small businesses to allow them to gain a momentum and strength and open up. And entrepreneurship, we have to support them.
Would expanded mining help?
Absolutely. We can say this, that just the Polymet mine alone, remember Minneapolis hosted the Super Bowl last year, right? About $505 million of economic activity in that area, in the metro area for 7 days. So Polymet will bring that to our Iron Range, that $500+ million of economic activity every year for a maximum of 20 years at this point. So we're looking at the opportunity to have good jobs. We're going to keep the environment clean. Families can live, stay, work, and recreate in the 8th Congressional District. This is a great place. Minnesota is one of the greatest states in the nation. We have everything here.
Of course, a lot of people are watching the Supreme Court right now with Justice Kennedy announcing that he's going to retire. Do you think that the Republican Congress should rush to quickly approve a replacement or wait until the next Congress comes in?
No, I don't think they're going to rush to wait for the replacement. I think that they're going to follow I think a logical steps, do the interview and, and appoint somebody that will follow the laws and not legislate from the bench. Follow those laws and interpret the Constitution as it was meant to be. And I look forward to the process.
What would you look for in a Supreme Court justice?
I would look for somebody that follows the Constitution, that will rule in favor of the laws and not interpret or not make laws up, and not really bring your personal biases into the courtroom.
At some point, Congress is going to have to fix health care.
Yes.
Ideas in terms of whether the Affordable Care Act can be fixed or needs to be completely scrapped?
You know, that's a real big issue.
And we only have 30 seconds.
No, it's going to be solved through dialogue. It has to be solved through dialogue, and we have to not care who gets the credit. We have to come together as Americans and legislators and do what's best for the people. But I do know one thing, that government-run health care is not the answer. We have that in the VA right now, and we have some problems. And we have 26 million people in the VA. Throwing another 312 million on that, I think would not be good. So,
sure.
But the dialogue has to be there, Julie, for sure.
And with that, we have to wrap. Pete Stauber, candidate for Congress from the 8th District. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Udac, a local nonprofit that works with people with disabilities, had some big news this week. They're moving into the former Duluth Business University building in West Duluth, thanks to a generous donation. Joe and Nancy Bullion gave $3 million to Udac to buy the building and remodel it to fit the needs of the agency. Joining us now with more is Karen Herman, Executive Director of Udac. And Karen, welcome. Thanks for being here
this evening.
$3 million, a gift. That had to be quite overwhelming.
It's a lot of trust. It's $3 million in the mission and the, in our organization, and we are absolutely, I'm still speechless.
Karen, talk to us a little bit about UDAC. What's it all about? Who does it serve?
Sure. UDAC works with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we help them develop life skills, vibrant life skills, and job skills so they can have competitive employment in the community, and we help them with supported employment. We are there through the lifespan. So we've had people in our organization, we'll be here 50 years next year. We've had individuals that started with us when children were still part of our program. So, but they will start with us after high school. We'll help them find jobs. If they lose a job, they can come back and we can help them just like someone else. Businesses change, skills are different. So they come back into our organization, we'll help them develop the skills they need, find jobs in the community. And then when they retire, we have a retirement program as well. So they still have the opportunity to share in social skills and be involved in community activities. It's a great organization.
Was UDAC planning a move or an expansion before this windfall came your way?
Well, that's a great question. Before I came, they had looked for a few years at opportunities in the community to find a new building or to build or something like that. But it was clear that that wasn't going to happen when I came on board. So my message was, we're going to love our building. We're going to improve it, whatever it takes. This is where we're going to stay. And lucky for us, Mr. Bullion stepped in and said, I'm here to help and tell me what it is you need. And his wife Nancy is amazing and committed to people that need services and help and support, and between the two of them, they believe in our mission and what we're trying to accomplish.
So Karen, once you move into the DBU building, will you be expanding your services, and how will you do that?
We'll enhance our services and we'll add programming. To say expand, we'll see. I have licensure and some other things to go through at this point in time, so we'll see what that brings as we move forward. But right now we're looking at it, enhancing the programming that we have, and then looking at adding some different programs as well.
Is this a better location in terms of serving your population?
Well, it's a fabulous location right off the interstate there. So I don't know that it's better. We love the Hillside neighborhood. We've been there a long time, but the building itself will serve us so much better than our existing facility.
What has Udac accomplished, Karen, in all the years you've been active in Duluth?
50 years is a long legacy. It matches what the Bullions were looking at as an organization that was committed to the community and committed to making the difference in lives of people. And I would say when you go back and look at all of the people that have been touched by this organization, it's very significant. Joe and his family, as all of us, disability knows no socioeconomic, there's no boundaries. We are all touched in some way by disability in our family and our friends. So they've had acquaintances and families through the years. Joe, interestingly, his Rotary Club helped develop our park that's in the Udac property and years ago. So there's been a long connectedness of community activity and commitment to what it is we do in Duluth.
Talk about the other side too, in terms of what businesses gain in the community from working with your folks.
Well, you ask the best question, because businesses will tell you that the people that we train and work with them are competent, committed, and dedicated, and they are there every day, and it is the highlight of their day. We have individuals that have been at the Sheraton for 10 years, and Karen will often say, their executive director, that they are the members of the team that have been there the longest. So we bring skills and vibrancy to an environment, and we can customize the needs that an employer has and design the ability to meet their specific job demands. We also do some things inside Udac for individuals that can only work for short periods of time or have the inability to go out into the community, and they also have the opportunity to have jobs and be active.
Your old building is a converted grocery store.
It
The new one,
is.
a former college. Do you have a lot more room now to work? Better facilities?
We actually have the same square footage. It's just its design is so much better. So we're almost a mirror square footage wise, but the layout of that facility is absolutely beautiful. And Mr. Gessner, the owner of the building, has graciously donated to us the contents of the building. So office furniture, chairs, video equipment, everything that's in there is coming with the buildings.
We have just a few more seconds. What has to happen before you move in?
Oh, licensures and I think fire marshals, and I have a little renovation that needs to happen, and people ask me all the time, when are we moving? And I say, when it's all ready.
No date yet.
When it's all ready, exactly.
All
Good
right.
answer.
Well,
Exactly.
our time is over already. So Karen
you.
Herman, thank you so much.
Thank you for
coming
having
in,
me.
and
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
congratulations. Good luck as you move
We're
forward.
thrilled. Thank you to the Bullions.
All the best.
Thank you.
Since last fall, we've been featuring local veterans in our Voices of Vietnam profiles. In the final episode of this series of interviews, we feature a Vietnam vet from Hermantown. Producer Mike Lagarde brings us his story.
Well, I graduated from Proctor High School in '66. And then I hired out for Great Northern Railroad. I went to work right away. So I had worked about a year and a half, and then they drafted me in January of '68. I figured it was coming. You know, I didn't go to college. I went to work right away, and a lot of my friends got drafted too. So I guess I figured my time was, you know, about up.
Richard was drafted into the Army and did his basic training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
But they put us through, I guess you'd say, hell there at times. I mean, some of the PT and all that we had was just unbelievable. I met a lot of nice guys there in basic, And a couple of the guys I met there, we went through the whole Army together. We went through basic, we went on to AIT, which was Fort Polk. That was Tigerland, and if and when you heard you were going to Tigerland, you knew you were going to Vietnam, because that's the next step from basic was the AIT, that was Advanced Infantry Training. And they had all kinds of mock villages, and like you were in a jungle, night maneuvers that supposedly was like Nam. Scared the heck out of me trying to go through that and think what we had ahead of us. Yeah, and then after that it was on to Vietnam.
Richard and his fellow infantrymen flew into Cam Ranh Bay. As he remembered that time, he described his first reaction getting off the plane.
Oh, it was hot. It was hot there. Yeah, and there were so many GIs running around, you know, and I think we spent about 2 weeks there before they sent us up north to our unit. We flew from Cam Ranh Bay to Pleiku, that's up in the Central Highlands. And then that's the home of the 4th Infantry Division, that's where I ended up. And then once we were there, after a couple of weeks, more training in that, they sent us by truck convoy up into the Central Highlands.
Richard's first day was marked by the death of one of his buddies, and he thought to himself that this was going to be a long tour. Right up until his final moment in country, he knew that anything could happen.
I don't know if I was in 4 or 5 firefights. When I was there, I didn't see that much action, but, you know, enough where I saw 4 or 5 of my buddies get killed. They pulled you out of the field when you were down to 30 days, and then you went to the rear, and I was at either Docto or Campanari, and you were either on KP or guard duty every night. And we just about got blown away on guard duty one night. There were 4 of us in a bunker and a tower, and 2 guys were always up together. And we had sensors out there, and the sensors were going crazy. So they had a mad minute or whatever they called it, where they told everybody online we're all going to open up at a certain time. So we fired for a minute. Well, it turned out they came in the wire, the NVA or Viet Cong, they came through a drainage ditch and they blew up part of a MP barracks behind us and some trucks. But the next, you know, we had no fight with them. I mean, there was no shooting involved. So the next morning we found almost all the bunkers by us had homemade explosive satchel charges made out of bamboo, but none of them went off. Now, I don't know if they would have, you know, they weren't that big. They didn't get in the bunkers, but they were on the outside. So, yeah, I felt that was a pretty lucky experience there. I remember getting on the bird, you know, it was just unbelievable when us guys loaded up a plane and we left and looked back. Of course, first thing you thought of is, am I ever going to see them guys again? You know, that was tough.
The voices of Vietnam. Well, time now for the business headlines from the editors at Business North. The U.S. Forest Service and Polymet Mining exchanged titles to federal and private lands on Thursday. The swap completed a controversial deal that Polymet says is key to developing its copper-nickel precious metals mine near Hoyt Lakes. Polymet received 6,600 acres of federal lands and gave the Forest Service 6,600 acres to consolidate the Superior National Forest holdings. Polymet now has surface rights to about 30 square miles of land. Project opponents waged a court battle to stop the exchange, but were prevented by a law approved in the U.S. House and Senate.
Minnesota utility regulators ruled Thursday there is a legitimate need for Enbridge to rebuild its number 3 pipeline through the state. In its ruling, the Public Utilities Commission picked the company's preferred route with minor changes. The pipeline will replace an existing line that is more than 50 years old. Opponents to the line include those who believe fossil fuels contribute to global warming and American Indians who say the route will cross their land in violation of sovereign treaties. Some have threatened to conduct a resistance movement that rivals or exceeds the Standing Rock protests of 2016 and 2017.
The Bayfield area business community held a ribbon cutting and grand opening ceremony for a new marine repair facility at Pikes Bay Marina. The new space gives the Pikes Bay boat repair technicians additional capacity to work on a variety of vessels. It has a collection of specialized tools to serve Lake Superior mariners. Bayfield is a popular starting point for boaters who sail to the Apostle Islands. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment, call now, dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org and visit the WDSE website for the latest on our program schedule, news about your favorite PBS shows, and upcoming events here at the station. And Denny, it's hard to believe the 4th of July is already next week.
It is. Boy, June went fast. Where did that go?
June went awfully fast. Hope everyone has a fun and safe holiday. Yeah. And for Denny and the crew here at WDSE, I'm Julie Zenner. We'll see you next time.